My name is Mike Goelzer. I'm the product manager for libp2p. If you're working on libp2p or if you've touched it in any way, I think I've talked to you by now. I've really made an effort to reach out to every person. I'm presenting from a seated position just because of my ankle. As some of you may have noticed, I've been have this cast on it. So anyway, I just want to do 5 minutes on, this was my thought for the presentation. I'm just going to repeat back to people what I've heard from everyone. And don't worry, I'm not going to use your name or anything if you said something negative about libp2p, so don't be concerned about that. But I'm just going to repeat back kind of what I've heard, and I'm hoping that that will spark some ongoing discussions. So I divide this into two parts, the present state of libp2p and the future state. In terms of the present state of libp2p, number one thing I've heard is about documentation and specs. So, one quote I heard was, there are so many concepts, very few explanations. There are questions about what are the boundaries of libp2p versus what's in IPFS, like where exactly is the line drawn. There's also, some parts of the specs repo need like they're incomplete, like the section is blank, and examples and tutorials. So this is an area where I really want to focus. As a product manager, I really want to put resources on doing more with the documentation and specs, and just generally making it easier for other projects to use libp2p. This is feedback I've heard outside of this room too. We have some different projects, like some folks from, there's several groups from Ethereum, for example, who are interested in using libp2p. And they have some of these same questions. So there was also a good discussion about Mplex and stream muxing. I am typing up a GitHub issue where I'm going to put all the details into it. So I'm not gonna try to describe it here. But in general, the questions were about Speedy versus Mplex and different implementations having different preferences for that. And I'm going to try to summarize this in a GitHub issue that I'll put up on libp2p/libp2p, because it's a general cross-language issue. And also some questions about goals and roadmap for libp2p came up. So let me talk a little bit about future of libp2p. A big thing that I think we need to focus on are more exotic transports. There's a lot of interest from people in having kind of unconventional transports, like person-to-person Bluetooth or person-to-person Wi-Fi. A lot of ways to route traffic, even in places that don't have internet or don't have reliable internet at a particular point in time. The stream muxing, I won't cover it again. I mean, basically, we're going to try to land quick soon, hopefully in the next couple of months. That's a UDP-based protocol. That would solve a lot of our problems with having too many TCP connections, but we're always going to need to have a TCP fallback. So then that was where the discussion about Mplex came in, and Speedy, and HTTP2, and again, that's what I'm going to summarize in a GitHub issue, so I won't go into it here. I talked a little bit to folks who are involved with the WebRTC, with the JS stuff, and specifically about WebRTC versus WebSockets. I heard some differing opinions. I think some people were concerned that WebRTC doesn't scale well to a large number of peers. So I don't know. That kind of gets into the larger issue of scalability testing, and then. Standardized interfaces is another one. So should every language implementation of libp2p implement some common set of interfaces? And if so, in what language should we define, or what IDL, what interface definition language should we use to define that implementation? And the last topic was questions about collaborations with the rest of the community. There was an idea for something called the nursery. I won't go into it now, but basically the idea is shared implementations of low-level building blocks. And should those be in libp2p? Should they be community efforts outside of libp2p? And how should the two interact? So we didn't get to answers, just questions there. I think most of you who are interested saw Juan's ideas about standardized interfaces, so I'm not going to dwell on this slide too much. He put this up in a gist, so you can find it. It's in the Lisbon channel. The last thing I'll say is we're going to do a developers meeting in Berlin in July. I think most of you have heard about this by now. If you haven't, we're going to be doing 2 days of libp2p. It's July 12 and July 13, so a Thursday and a Friday in Berlin. And the structure of the conference right now is I'm going to plan out some talks in advance and wrangle some of you in this room to give those talks, some lighting talks for day one. So that's what you see on the, day one, day two didn't show up, but the first rectangle, the leftmost rectangle is day one. And then we're going to have some discussion, then we're going to have lunch, then we're going to have some discussions in the afternoon. Day two is wide open right now, so I'm interested in any suggestions anyone has. Please don't give them right in this forum, but you can either post, you can open an issue in that conference repo, or of course you can email me, and yeah, we'd just love people's feedback. So, okay, that's everything I have. Thank you.